have the tremendous privilege today of introducing our guest, Kate. Kate is a former Deloitte consultant who leveraged her experience in consulting and in the field to gain a top role as a senior executive at a large biopharmaceutical company. Kate's background and experience is tremendous, but more exciting than that is her dynamism, her excitement, and her enthusiasm for the problems that she gets to solve. It's so exciting and refreshing to see someone who leaves consulting to follow their dreams. And that's what Kate's going to share a little bit about with us today on the podcast. You're definitely going to enjoy this. So thanks again for joining. Let's dive in. I'm so excited today to have Kate with us. Kate's going to tell us a little bit about her background, and after we do that, we'll walk through a few fun questions. We want to get to know Kate. Then we're going to walk through some of the background of her career, some specific things that relate to choices that she made, and then finish up with some advice. So welcome, Kate. Really excited to have you.
So glad to be here. Happy Monday.
Wonderful. Well, before we get started with some of your bio and other information, I'm going to ask you a few fun questions just to get to know you. So the first one is, if you were given $100,000 today, just straight up cash money, or Bitcoin if you want it that way, but $100,000, what would you do with it?
Oh, it's such a great question. I think that answer probably changes daily. Today, I would likely contribute to a vaccine distribution campaign. Being in healthcare, my entire career, as you can imagine, the last 12 to 18 months have been totally healthcare focused, and it's on my mind frequently. So I would definitely give to a local or national vaccine campaign.
Awesome. Love that question and your answer. Okay. Second one is one person from history that you would love to interview.
Yeah, so kind of thinking a little out of the box here, definitely someone from recent history would be Anthony Bourdain. And we had actually, I think, corresponded over email a bit on this. And Anthony is passionate about travel, about culture, and about food. And I would love to have a dinner with him and discuss all of those things. A long dinner. In France, yeah.
In France. Okay, very specific. I like that. Awesome. Well, what's one item from your bucket list?
So this is an interesting one. I have always envisioned myself really enjoying surfing. Didn't grow up near a beach, not particularly coordinated, but I think I may have binged on a lot of surfing movies in high school or college, and I would love to definitely cross that one off the bucket list.
Amazing. Is it like take one surfing lesson or some kind of specific surfing goal that you have?
Oh, to take a lesson and not fall.
Not fall the whole time. Okay, awesome. Yeah, everybody looks a lot more elegant up there. I took a lesson in Australia once, and I was like, wow, they make it look a lot easier than this is. There was a lot of falling that happened. Okay. Good. And the final question was your favorite flavor of ice cream.
Oh my gosh. Again, changes with the day. I actually recently tried orange blossom olive oil ice cream, which was phenomenal.
That legitimately sounds like a California specialty. I don't even know how you're not in California right now.
I found it at my local grocery in Chicago, and I proceeded to text 15 friends and let them know about it who are also foodies. So that's my favorite right now. Yeah.
So in the place that I live in California, we produce both oranges and olive oil. And so that's what, but the scent of an orange blossom is one of the most magical things in the whole world. And so, yeah, if they captured that in ice cream, I can't imagine anything.
It's incredible. It's like a flavorful moisturizer. I don't know. Just, you don't know so whether versatile. To eat it or put it on your hands. I don't know.
I love it. Well, I can already tell we're going to have some spicy conversation today. I'm really looking forward to this. I want to give you the opportunity to first introduce yourself. Just give us a little bit of your background. And you don't have to walk through your whole career, but maybe just, some of what you thought you might do in your early career and 1 to 2 of your early career choices. And then I'll jump in from there.
Yeah, it's so fun to think about because I'm at a point now. I've been working about 20 years. It's hard to say that, although I did start working during college or right before college, interning. Healthcare, whether I liked it or not, was always a theme in my career. One of my parents is a physician, researcher, educator. Another parent is an educator who's passionate about medicine as well. So healthcare was always kind of front and center in my life, whether I liked it or not. But also a passion for business and a curiosity for business. So the way I kind of married the two early on in my career was by doing a couple things. One, majoring in economics, because I felt like that was a good business foundation in the context of arts and sciences in the school where I attended. And then also finding internships early on, whether it was in kind of the research space or the clinical kind of care delivery space, where they would take on someone who wasn't a biology major, chemistry major, but had really had a passion for understanding healthcare and understanding innovation in healthcare. So that's kind of how I married the two interests pretty early on. I think, right after high school, I had a market research internship, and it was actually in Hong Kong, of all places. And I know we'll have a chance to talk about my experience in Asia a bit later. But I guess that was a third leg of the stool, if you will. So healthcare, business, and then international. And those are themes now looking back that I've been able to pull through up to present day.
Okay, I love it. Well, I do want to talk a little bit about your early career. So I'm curious about what it was like to be in R&D as an R&D project leader specifically. So talk to me a little bit about that role, your kind of choice of company, choice of role, what was interesting to you, and what some of your key learnings were there.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So the R&D project leader role, I'll tell you that was really a serendipitous opportunity by way of another opportunity that fell through, and also touches on the global piece. So I attended a small liberal arts college my freshman year of college, and I applied to study in Japan my sophomore year. The day before I was scheduled to take a flight from Chicago to Tokyo and start my year in Tokyo was 9/11. And that really changed my world, as it did many people. I ended up going through a couple of major life changes. One, I decided not to go to Japan. There was a lot of uncertainty, not dissimilar to what we're experiencing now with the pandemic. 2, I thought through whether I wanted to return to the liberal arts college I was attending or go to a larger school that had more of a strong business program. And I also needed time to really reflect on what I wanted to get out of the college experience. So, in my family, at that point, if you're not in school, you're working and you're earning money. And I had the opportunity through a temp agency to actually get a job at a pharmaceutical company. And it worked out so beautifully because I was exposed very, very early in my career, while I was essentially still a student, albeit taking a break from undergrad, to learn about the research and development function within pharma. And from day one, I was exposed to this diverse ecosystem of really incredible business professionals who came from medical backgrounds, scientific backgrounds, statistical backgrounds, supply chain, law. And in my role in R&D project management, I was interfacing with all of these individuals, leading different initiatives, and really developed great mentoring relationships and an awareness that there was a seat at the table in the scientific innovation, medical innovation space for someone who was more business minded like myself, but still passionate about the science and the medicine aspect of bringing a drug or a device to market. And, funny enough, fast forward 20 years, some of those relationships, many of them I've maintained. And now I actually have the opportunity to work with some of those individuals in my current role at AbbVie that I worked with many, many years ago. So it's really come full circle in a lot of ways. And, I think throughout your career, you get signs that you're on the right track, and that opportunity and those relationships were definitely signs that I was on the right track.
We'll be right back after this quick break.
Have you ever heard a new digital trend and thought to yourself, okay, does this really matter? Asking the right questions helps you cut through the noise and get down to what matters most. I'm Jim Hertzfeld, host of the What If, So What podcast, where we discover what's possible with digital and figure out how to make it real by asking what if, so what, and most importantly, now what? Subscribe and listen, and together we can turn big ideas into tangible actions so you can get shit done.
Well, I love that you mentioned Japan and going to Japan and not going to Japan and that process. But as far as I understand, you actually do speak Japanese and have spent 6 years in Asia or more at this point, potentially. So, can you also just talk about the redemption of that choice, the fact that you didn't go then and how you came full circle for that?
Absolutely. So, 私はケイトです。どうぞよろしく。はじめまして. So, interestingly, my first exposure to Japan occurred when I was 9 years old. I was in 4th grade, and my family moved there for work in academia. And I had the opportunity, one of those golden opportunities when you're young enough to just soak up languages, to live in Japan when I was 9 and attend a Japanese school. And, live in a community where we were the only non-Japanese family for miles and miles and miles around. And, not to date myself, but this was 1990, 1991 when, you didn't have Gmail or FaceTime or Skype. So we were really, and I'm from Ohio originally, so you can imagine we experienced a lot of, I would say, positive culture shock and really embraced the culture. And that was a thread that I pulled through. We ended up, after that first trip to Japan, moving back for 5 years, where I attended up until a Japanese school and international school up until my sophomore year of high school, and came back to the States. And then during my early career years, found opportunities through the Harvard Project on Asian and International Relations, through work at Deloitte and PwC, to travel to Japan on projects and continue to build my network in those countries, and also find opportunities in Chicago with local consulates and trade organizations to kind of keep those relationships strong. While I'd say my language skills are, kind of wane with age, but generally when I go back to Japan, it comes back pretty quickly. But I think that, the thing is that Japan is home in a lot of respects. And those relationships I built, even in, high school and middle school, are still very strong. And I think those relationships have certainly paid dividends in my professional sphere. They've given me confidence to raise my hand when international opportunities did come up, because I've literally, landed in a foreign country in an airport, maybe not speaking the language, and had to navigate myself, to the hotel, to the office, and work with international teams. So, it's only paid really incredible dividends in my career.
I love it. Well, you wove in a few name drops of some of the consulting firms that you worked for and had the opportunity to work for. And so I'm wondering if you can talk about PwC Deloitte and your independent consulting work kind of in 3 separate phases. Again, just a little bit of the background. Why did you join the firms? What were you doing there? What was one key learning from each one of those opportunities?
Yeah, so my path, so if you're picking up on a theme, I kind of have a non-traditional background with some very traditional elements. I did not start my consulting career right out of undergrad. It was definitely something I was interested in, but I also, understood that. I think at the time I was applying for jobs was out of undergrad was 2005, 2006. The economy was okay, but at some point you have to look at the offers that you have on the table, the opportunities, and you got to pick one and own it and flourish in it. And some of those opportunities that presented themselves to me were back in the pharmaceutical and medical device space. And by the time I graduated, I'd had the opportunity to spend 2 years working in the patent office at my undergraduate university, where I ended up graduating from Washington University in St. Louis. So again, that theme of innovation, science, medicine, ringing true. So I spent my time in project management at Baxter Healthcare, at Takeda, and at the insistence really of my mentors as we were thinking about my career path and how to make best use of the time. Your 20s are such a great time to explore careers and really develop and hone those skills that are really going to last you the rest of your career. And my mentor said, a great path for you, Kate, would be to work for a couple of years in management consulting, get those kind of key core consulting skills that are really going to serve you well in your career, and then go to a full-time MBA program. And I said, okay, well, that's going to be my path. So I started applying to management consulting firms, got an opportunity to join PwC in the life sciences practice. And I'll tell you, the interview process for me, and this is true for both PwC and Deloitte, was a really enjoyable experience because I came in as an industry experienced hire, and we talked industry. And as you have come to learn about me, I'm really passionate about healthcare. So I
would spend your $100,000 on vaccine distribution. So
exactly.
This is, there you go.
Exactly. So for me, it was really just joining, consulting at, when I had, several years of industry experience under my belt, just opened so many doors. And I just within, the first couple of months, some of the different projects I focused on, governance and risk assessments and process improvement projects, I thought, wow, I get to do every day the thing that I most enjoyed working in industry, which was just kind of dedicating time to solving problems and thinking about communicating the right story to the right audience to foster change. So I was at PwC for about a year, and great experiences, was enjoying being on the road, living the quintessential consultant life. It was really incredible. At the time, I was also volunteering with a hospital executives association, American College of Healthcare Executives, and I had an opportunity to be one of their youngest presidents of this hospital association. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I really came to a point where I was like, wow, I have this once-in-a-lifetime 2-year experience to be a president of a hospital association in Chicago. I have this great job at PwC. The problem is I can't do both at the same time. So I made a pretty scary decision at the time. It's pretty bold. I look back, I think, wow, it was really, really bold to leave PwC and run the hospital association for 3 years total. And during that time, I developed my independent consulting practice. I had, at this time, pretty strong network of folks equally passionate about healthcare transformation, doing really interesting consulting work with hospitals, small projects, M&A, strategy, BD, and plugged into those networks and had an opportunity to experience what it's like to really run your own shop, sell work, and deliver work. And while it was certainly stressful at times, it was definitely more fun than stressful. And I learned what I like to call kind of the basics, the fundamentals really of consulting. I learned the sales cycle. I had to create my own sales cycle. I learned how to manage a budget because I had to. That was my budget. It was my living expenses and being able to cover them. And I learned the value of relationships on a new level from a sales perspective. Like, how do I convert? How do I translate good relationships where we've connected on certain themes in industry and like-mindedness, if you will? How do I convert those relationships to business opportunities? So that ran for a couple of years, and I had an opportunity, again, serendipity. Right as I was wrapping up my term as Hospital Association president, I got a call from Deloitte, literally within a month. Again, you can't, nothing trumps serendipity. And there was an opportunity, again, to join as an industry hire, as an engagement manager at Deloitte. And it took me, I think, about three weeks to make a decision. I thought, you know what, I think it's time, because I want to level up. I've had the opportunity to run my own consulting business. I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are and where I'd like to develop. And I think Deloitte is an organization and a culture where I will be able to hone those skills. And the rest is, kind of history. I spent eight plus years at Deloitte. And I think we'll talk about some of the different client-facing and non-client-facing roles. But yeah, it's pretty interesting when I think back how puzzle pieces connected that I didn't realize were there.
Well, I want to move over now to talk a little bit about skills that you learned when you were at the firms. And some of our audience, they're coming from different places. We're going to talk about both skills and independent consulting. But if you were going into your first role at PwC or even your second role at Deloitte, if the answer is different, and you were thinking about now learning or positioning yourself to learn what you wish you would have learned or what you did eventually learn when you were there, more proactively, how would you position yourself to get the most out of the skills opportunities and the skills training?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I think, at the end of the day, when I look back and I think about the consultants at all stages of their careers, right, that have really inspired me, from business analyst to senior partner, right? I would actually say there's an incredible amount of value in learning how to tell a story. Storytelling is so key. I would say it's fundamental and foundational. If you can then translate that story into a compelling presentation, I think a lot of times we in consulting kind of focus a bit too much on the deck and not on the discussion, the dialogue. And that's a danger zone. I think if we get too far away from really looking at our client interactions, our sales pitches as the opportunity to have a conversation, a consultative conversation, we can't get too far away from that. And I wish I would have been clued into that advice sooner in my career, because I think it would have framed and shaped my experience in a different way. I eventually learned the lesson, but it was much later. So less PowerPoint, more storytelling.
Yeah. Okay, good. I love that. Good. Well, then the next question is, you set up this independent consulting firm. So again, what did you learn along the way that you wish someone had told you before you did that?
Wow. So, gosh, so many things. I think one of the key, had I waited another couple of years before joining a firm, going to Deloitte, I think I would have spent more time focusing on not just developing relationships for sales opportunities, but strategic partnerships to look for, to bring in talent and expertise in the gaps I couldn't fill on my own, either because I didn't have the experience or I didn't have the time. there's a lot of power, especially when you're an independent consultant. There is so much power and opportunity in partnerships. So, if you have, let's say, a small scale M&A opportunity, and I really like more of kind of the upfront strategy, but I know that I need someone who's more strong from a data perspective, having a cadre of, people in my network that I know I can go to who are also independent and flexible, who I can kind of pull in and kind of create that hub and spoke. And clients, or a sophisticated client particularly, will see, I think they'll respect your business model and your proposal even more if they see that you've identified your slice and what you can focus on, and then you also have the wisdom and expertise to bring in the right expertise and capabilities to fill out the proposal, to fill out the opportunity. So power and partnership. And interestingly, I did have opportunities to see that type of partnership model play out on a much larger scale at Deloitte when I worked on alliance opportunities and partnerships with small entities, with large entities. So I think there's a real sophistication in that model, and if you're very thoughtful and planful, I think it really help you as an independent consultant.
We'll be right back after this quick break.
Do you need quick industry insight to uplevel your business acumen, either for case interviews or for life on the job? Grab the Industry Primer Pack. In this pack, we break down 11 consequential global industries, from automotive to consumer goods to healthcare to pharma and more. Each industry primer includes an examination of that industry via Porter's 5 Forces, a breakdown of key trends and metrics, a look at revenue and cost drivers, a snapshot of key industry players, and more. It's a quick, bite-sized look at what drives key global industries. Grab it today via the link in the show notes.
Let's go back to the after the 8 years at Deloitte, right? So then AbbVie and the senior leadership role. There are lots of reasons why you make a move like that. What were yours?
Yeah, so I feel like this is the part of the interview I'm kind of living in real time. Again, going back to healthcare, one of the things you'll find if you spend 20 years thinking about healthcare, you really realize with every year that passes that there are a lot of opportunities to improve healthcare, whether it's delivery, whether it's products, whether it's the experience. And again, we're seeing that play out right now on a national, if not international stage with the pandemic. I had a really great mentor at Deloitte who, I think about a year or 2 years into joining the firm, we had a mentoring call. He said, Kate, as you think about your future, if you think about the partner path at Deloitte, there's a partner managing director path. He said, absolutely 100% make sure that you love what you do and that value proposition that gets you to partner managing director, because that will be your core. That's going to be what you're known for. So choose wisely, choose carefully, take time. You don't need to jump into a certain domain because that's where you keep tending to get project work. He's like, don't make your decision based on that. Make your decision based on what really, gets you going, what you're really passionate about. And I really took his advice to heart. And I'm like, well, let's see, I've done pharma work, med device work. I've worked with hospitals. I've done a little work with health insurance companies. Where do I want to play? Where could I see myself staying until retirement? And I realized it goes back to my experiences in the patent office at WashU and commercializing innovation and helping scientists and physicians and engineers take really, really great game-changing ideas and turn them into something that can be commercialized and scaled. And a specific domain that I'm really passionate about is genetics and medicine. I think that we are learning more and more about how our genetics play into our risk, propensity for risk, how we can find customized therapies and treatment regimens based on that risk. And I thought, gosh, if in the age and era of data, if we can solve for someone's individual makeup from a healthcare perspective, that's going to be game changing. We can predict how and why and when people will get sick. That's incredible. So I started to, again, the non-scientist here, right, geeking out on science and medicine. But really about 5 years ago, I started to research precision medicine. And it was not, I wouldn't say a nascent field, but certainly not an area where we were doing a ton of work at the firm. And I worked with a couple of colleagues who had equal passion for precision medicine to stand up a community of practice within the firm, knowledge exchange, looked for different opportunities. And I realized through my research that my heart and my interests really lie in an R&D department at a pharmaceutical company. And I didn't know exactly which pharma it would be. I didn't know when, I didn't know where, but I did start to put the feelers out. Once I kind of knew where my heart and where my head was at and where I wanted to be, and kind of, on the front lines, with the folks in the lab, almost. I don't work in a lab, but near labs, that are solutioning and making sense of all this great data, making sense of all these great innovations, experimenting, innovating in their own right. And so the opportunity, I would have never guessed that my perfect opportunity would be in my backyard here in Chicago. But it turned out it was at the AbbVie organization, and I started a role in strategy operations and people leadership in the pharmacovigilance and patient safety department, which is a global department. It's a global function within AbbVie. And I got to say, I've been here just under a year, and I pinch myself every day. I look back at some of the lists I made of what my ideal job would be, what I wanted to be doing. And I'm like, wow, it reads like the job description I applied for. So again, there's that serendipity and just kind of following your heart and, what you're really passionate about. And it's great. I have to say, this opportunity wouldn't be what it is, at least in my experience, without all the years of management consulting experience, because I look at problems differently, I problem solve differently. Again, those core skills, the art of the story, visualizing really complex concepts, translating those via a mechanism like PowerPoint or otherwise, strategic frameworks. I have this robust toolkit that I get to use every day in my dream job. So I'm pretty happy.
I love it. Well, I have one last career question and then one last personal question. So on the career side, you mentioned that this healthcare consulting, bent that you had led you into this place, and that in many ways also that healthcare consulting is a growing field. The more you discover, the more opportunity there is to participate in and fix healthcare. Is it a field that you would recommend that people get into? What do you think is going to happen in the next 5 years in healthcare?
Absolutely. 100% recommend. It's something that I'm really obviously very passionate about, and so honored to have the opportunity to speak with you today about it. And I think I recommend healthcare, and I also recommend having a varied, diverse, kind of create your own rotational program, if you will, in healthcare. One of the things I figured out pretty early on in my own journey was, in order to improve healthcare, in some cases fix, in other cases improve, you really have to understand how all the points of the ecosystem play together. And so I made it a point to, I worked in pharma. I wanted to understand the provider space, so I got involved with the hospital association. While I was at Deloitte, I had pharma, provider experience, and I knew I needed to get exposure to the payer space. So I purposely sought out opportunities there. I have built a network amongst public health practitioners. I have gotten to know a lot of recent graduates from Masters in Health Administration programs to learn kind of how they're viewing the world. I mean, we have to break down silos in our industry. I think those silos are frankly being broken down in a lot of respects because of the pandemic. And so if you want a lifelong career in an area that really will benefit from those core consulting skills, those consulting experiences where you can really make a difference, I would say put those skills, put those experiences to good use in healthcare.
I love it. What I've loved hearing about are those three themes that you mentioned at the beginning, the business, the international, and the healthcare weaving themselves together. And one of the things that I love about healthcare consulting is that you get all of the above in healthcare. As you mentioned, there's healthcare is a global question, not a kind of siloed or reasonable one. Well, my final question is about something that's outside of work that I understand about you, which is your involvement with the organization of the United States of Women. Can you just talk a little bit about why you're involved, what you do, why having something outside of work is meaningful for you?
So important. I mean, the United States of Women is an organization I came across through actually involvement in another women's organization called Elevate, which is a global professional women's network. And Elevate and United States of Women had partnered really around education and advocacy issues, and really encouraging women to run for local office and to not be intimidated by that process. And United States of Women has done a phenomenal job hosting large conferences over the last, I think, 4 or 5 years in different major cities to kind of build that community and convene and exchange information and create these support networks around issues that are important to women. And, while often my life tends to be all healthcare all the time, I also appreciate the need to draw those linkages and connections outside of my own sphere to kind of broader communities, focusing on issues that affect communities I care about, and particularly women's issues. I've had the opportunity to convene education events with the United States of Women, to author articles, to mentor, to coach. And I just think not only does it feel good to kind of give back, contribute to organizations that are focused on causes that you care about or causes that are directly impacting you, but it's also a great opportunity to hone and flex your leadership skills. I found that with associations, certainly in the healthcare space as well. I always recommend getting involved with causes, trade associations, especially as an early careerist, because you're going to get those. I mean, they're often volunteer. You're going to get great opportunities to learn about leadership, to learn about project management, to learn about influencing without authority. And I really think those experiences, coupled with my professional experiences, have prepared me really for people leadership roles, certainly the role at my current organization. And it gives you volunteer opportunities to give you some room, I think, to fail, to make mistakes, to learn from those mistakes, to fix those mistakes as well, in a safe environment where you're surrounded with like-minded individuals who are going to give you that support and feedback and help you grow. So, nothing negative about spending that time on your nights and weekends to connect with other organizations. I think it also certainly it encourages one to be, incredibly disciplined with their time, with balance, to learn the value of balance, and prioritization as well. So I've been really, really fortunate, especially being in a city like Chicago, to have opportunities to get involved with different groups like United States of Women.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your insights and your time. I'll leave the floor open for one final question. If you have anything that we haven't said so far that you would want to exhort others to, to adopt or learn about, or something that you would encourage them to do or pursue.
Yeah, what I would really encourage, people talk about the power of journaling for different reasons, personal and professional. Something I wish I would have done a lot earlier in my career is more journaling or blogging about my professional experiences, because I think, as time goes by really quickly, and as you look back, it's actually really, it can be a pretty amazing process, I think, to kind of go back and think about where you started, what experiences you've had that have really shaped who you are today, and then think about the direction you want to go. And so anything, blogging, journaling, anything that gives you a moment, gives you space to reflect, is great. And I think just provides a richer professional experience. So definitely make the time. It goes by really fast.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kate. We've loved having you on. Thanks for sharing your journey, your insight, and your wisdom. So grateful for you.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks so much for listening. Make sure that you share this episode with friends who might be interested in a career in healthcare, consulting, and/or biopharmaceuticals. And also importantly, please leave a review on this podcast. We're so excited that you joined us. And if you're interested in more information about all things consulting, check us out at our website, managementconsulted.com.